welcome to Prudent Media. My name is Sachin Chatte and on this program we take a look at the latest releases. Today we will take a look at two big releases of the week. One is Veda and the other of course is Stree 2. First, let's take a look at Stree 2. Bollywood seems to be going the Hollywood way. Any successful film with the tiniest scope for a sequel is being turned into a franchise. So on the lines of MCU, we now have the Maddox Supernatural universe, which till now was restricted to just 3 original films. That's Stree, Veda and the recent Munja. And now we have the first sequel in the form of Stree Part 2. The premise of the first film was interesting. Still, I was in the minority who didn't particularly like the execution. A village haunted by a woman who abducts men and the men were fearful of her was a commendable concept, but not many films are good at switching between comedy, horror, mumbo-jumbo and romance at the drop of a hat. The same problem lies with the sequel as well, and thankfully the romance quotient is slightly on the lower side here, though the film is almost 25 minutes longer than its predecessor for no reason. Now, how do you keep a straight face when Shraddha Kapoor, who plays a nameless character, says in all seriousness, "स्त्री की चोटी से मैंने अपनी ताकत बढ़ा ली है और मैंने काले जादू का अभ्यास भी किया है," which effectively means I have used Stree's strands of hair to improve my power and I have also studied black magic. She uses her shiny braid, which looks like it has LED lights in it, which reminded me of Amitabh Bachchan's jacket in the song Sara Zamana from Yarana. And she uses that to fight a headless monster. Now mind you, this film has a UA certificate, which means it is okay for kids to see a monster removing his own head. After all, the film is called Sarkate Ka Aatank, which translates to Terror of the Headless. Now most sequels are reverse engineered and it is crystal clear here as well. So there was this village which was terrorized by a ghostly woman, and we have all these characters who are a lot of fun, one must say. But what can we do next? How about a male ghost who can detach his head and who kidnaps women, but only the progressive type? In the opening scene, we see a young woman who steps out of the house in the village and lights a cigarette, making her the target of the Sarkata, whose head literally comes flying through the air and drags the woman into the unknown. Then we are back to the familiar characters in Chanderi village. Biki, played by Rajkumar Rao, who's the ladies' tailor, along with his friend Bittu, played by Apar Shakti Khurana, and the paranormal specialist Rudra, played by Pankaj Tripathi, and they all rope in Jana, played by Abhishek Banerjee, to figure out the disappearance of Bittu's girlfriend. To give full credit where it is due, the ensemble cast is an absolute hoot and they nail every scene that is comic or has a smart one-liner. Rona ban karo, tum sneha kakkad nahi ho, or the wordplay with intimate fasting instead of intermittent fasting. But in terms of the story itself, there isn't a lot happening in its favor. Yes, we get the point about patriarchy and its ills, but it needs a coherent story to go along with it. This one stretches a bit and we also see the original Red Saris 3 descend for a fight like Magneto from X-Men. The nameless character Shraddha Kapoor also returns, and while Biki knows she is not a real person, he still has feelings for her like Romeo did for Juliet. Hers is the most thankless role in the film. Because the gags and the lines come up at a fair pace, Stree 2 is just about watchable, but once it is over, you wonder what exactly the film was trying to convey. The climax also has Bhedia showing up, and before that, you also see a top Bollywood star in a cameo. It is this kind of packaging that might help this film sail through with the audience, but beneath the surface, there isn't any depth here. The actors are in smashing form. Rajkumar Rao looks believable and adds a zing, whether as a tailor, lover, or the savior of Chanderi. Pankaj Tripathi is, well, he is Pankaj Tripathi. He is first rate in everything he does. Abhishek Banerjee is such a versatile actor, and here his sense of comic timing is absolutely impeccable. The actors add so much value to the film, but otherwise Stree 2 is passable. I'm going to go with 2.5 out of 5 stars for Stree Part 2. And now let's take a look at Veda, which is an action thriller with a good old-fashioned good versus evil template. The action is quite slick and the film has its heart in the right place, the odd cliched moment notwithstanding. A film based on caste oppression has rarely been the subject of a mainstream Bollywood film. Veda has John Abraham, who also serves as a producer, but the title of the film belongs to a girl who also gets a fair share of screen time and the most important part in the scheme of things. Occasionally, the film bows down to an item number and a holy festivities song, but otherwise it stays true to its messaging about caste atrocities. The opening shot of a woman running for her life next to a railway track sets the tone of the film. Through flashback, we learn that she is Veda, played by Sharvari, a college girl who is not allowed to fill her water bottle from the cooler because of her caste. And it is not just that, she and her family have to face humiliation at every turn and at the drop of a hat. That such things still happen in this day and age is enraging, and the film successfully manages to bring out that anger in the viewer. Then there is Major Abhimanyu, played by John Abraham, a tough army officer who's been court-martialed for disobeying orders during an extraction mission in POK. He returns to his village and takes up coaching. Veda, meanwhile, wants to take up boxing primarily for self-protection, but the local men won't allow that. Firstly, she is a woman, and then her caste is also an impediment. For a while, the ex-major has to grin and bear it as he sees the caste divide and its ramifications. Abhishek Banerjee, who also acts in Stree 2, plays Jitendra Pratap Singh, the local Pradhan who has more than 100 villages at his mercy. He quotes Darwin and knows a thing or two about atheism, but is a firm believer in caste and is a goon of the first order. While he is a reasonably calm man, his younger brother Suyog, played by Kshitij Chauhan, is a hot-headed man who is drunk on power. Veda studies law and knows her rights according to the Constitution of India, but that doesn't help much when you have patriarchy and casteism shoved down your throat. But she also has the ex-army man on her side who is a cross between Liam Neeson, the action hero, and John Wick. Veda's brother is in love with a girl from an upper caste, and all hell breaks loose when their affair becomes public. Pradhan is the judge, jury and executioner in the village, and soon Veda along with the ex-army men are on the run, which is something we have seen in many films, but the action makes the difference here. Veda insists on approaching the courts as is her right. There's a rather symbolic scene where violence is unleashed outside and the judges are covering in the room while she knocks on the door pleading to be heard. While the main character in the film does the heavy lifting when it comes to demolishing the army of goons, the main protagonist, that's Veda, gets an opportunity to land the sucker punch. In a scene reminiscent of the 80s films when there was some catharsis when the good folks got even with the bad guys, Veda demonstrates different boxing punches that she has learned. The film has an happy ending of sorts, but it gives enough fodder to remind us that real life doesn't quite end that way. By and large, the film zips through smoothly except for a needless item number and another song. With a reference to a chakra view, Abhimanyu ends up becoming one of those characters who can beat up any number of people and overcome all odds. The action choreography is from the top drawer. Very often we see the camera mimic the action of the characters, and that works very effectively. John Abraham actually plays the part well. He talks less and lets the action do the talking. From a comic role in Stree 2 to playing an evil man here, Abhishek Banerjee's acting range is phenomenal. As a troubled woman, Sharvari is excellent. Whether it is the anger or other emotions, she gets it all spot on. For the action and the fact that it highlights an important issue, Veda gives enough bang for your bucks and food for thought. I'm going to go with 3 out of 5 stars for Veda. Well, that's what I thought of the films that were released this week. Do let us know what you think, and I'll be back with you next week with more movie reviews. Till then, it's goodbye from me.